We're on page Tes Zayin. On page Tes Zayin, the Ramchal quoted different psukim to prove that the Rebbeinu Shalom himself says he is the Yochid, Echad Yochid Amiyuchad, he is the Shalit, he is the only ruler. And even if we talk about the Satan, the Sitra Achra, we don't talk about these things like Goyim talk about them. Goyim talk about them as the Chas v'Shalom, they have this Antichrist, all these things that there's some kind of battle between going on in heaven and who wins and who loses. We have no such concept. The Rebbeinu Shalom is in control of everything. He's running a heavenly court, and ultimately all decisions are rendered by him. The world runs in a certain way through certain quote-unquote agents, malachim, mazolos, but he is in control. There's not a second control. And the Ramchal brought down different psukim about this. And now let's go to page Yud Zayin. We're going to take a look at a few lines on Yud Zayin. Then we're going to come back to what we mentioned about Friedlander's footnote 7 on page Tes Zayin. Remember, we learned the 5 major forms of apikursis. If you don't have a solid backing and a solid understanding in the yichud, a person in Chas v'Shalom fall prey to one of these forms of apikursis. One of the forms of apikursis was the Catholic Christian misrepresentation, perversion, corruption, that because Jews had the first Beis Hamikdash and the second Beis Hamikdash, God would love to help them, but he can't. God was forced to find a new chosen people. All these ideas, God is forced to find a new people. God forbid. God would love to help us, but he can't because 2 strikes you're out. God forbid. God's not mukhrach. He doesn't have to do anything. He's not forced to do anything. Only human beings would love to do something but can't, and only human beings are forced to do something. So if a God is actually a human being, you can talk to him, you can talk about him that way, which is their God, a human being. Our God, Baruch Hashem, is not a human being. We don't talk about him that way. And this idea, the Ramchal now says on page Yud Zayin, 4 lines from the top, Zois Nechamasenu Banyenu. This is our consolation. Even when we're in Golus, this idea of Yichud, Shalit, that God cannot be made to do anything is our consolation. Ki lo al ma'aseinu yifkod. The Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't have to he doesn't have to punish us. He doesn't have to consider what we do and therefore automatically react. V'lolis chuseinu yamtin. He doesn't have to wait till we have the full zechus in order to redeem us. Or michesorim masem yachlifenu chas v'shalom, because of what we've done, he has to switch us with another people. But God made an oath to our forefathers, and he made a covenant with them. Even if the Jewish people don't merit the Geula, when the time comes, Yom Nistam Belibo, it's a day that only God knows about. It's a hidden day. He will save us. He will redeem us. Because he is the master of everything. He can do it when he wants to. Enough of this nonsense with God would love to help us, but he can't because we struck out twice. Enough of that nonsense. He's the Odin Akol. He can do what he wants, and there's no rules that prohibit or inhibit what he can do. He has discretion to do whatever he wants, anytime he wants. And this itself, that God can do what he wants, when he wants, is the Yichud. Let's go to our Friedlander's footnote 7 on page Tes Zayin. Bittul achok, sha'akadosh baruch hu misnai itanu kfi maseinu, the end of the rule that God will deal with us exactly according to our deeds. Remember, one of the 4 questions that the Neshama asked the Seichel, the Neshama said, I believe in the 13 Animamins, and I also understand 9 of them, but I don't understand 4. The 4 were Hashgacha, Schava Onesh, Bias Mashiach, and Trias HaMesans. He was dealing with Schava Onesh. There is a world that runs on Schava Onesh, even though we don't understand it. There's a world that runs on Schava Onesh, reward and punishment. Okay, So now Klal Yisrael didn't do what they were supposed to do and did things that they're not supposed to do. They're punished. That's it. God got rid of them, and they're the wandering Jew, and now God has a new chosen people, chas v'sholem. That's the very point. Bittul hachok shakadosh baruch hu misnai yitonu k'fri maseinu mara al midas yichudai she'enoi kosher b'shum chukim v'hagbolis. The mere fact that God can say back to the Christian and Catholics, "B'mher Yameinu, you are wrong. You think that I can't do what I want, when I want, and how I want. I'm going to show you I can do what I want, when I want, and how I want. I'm going to redeem the Jewish people. You have said for 2,000 years that the Jewish people are lost because they struck out twice, and I made you the new Israel. And you said they're wanderers forever because I'd love to help them, but I can't help them. I heard you Catholics and Christians talking for 2,000 years, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to bring them back to Eretz Yisrael, and there's going to be a kibbutz golius. And all your theology that they're wanderers forever, now you know, is false. And as we discussed, this is a big problem for Catholic theology. You are wrong, because God says, Mr. Christian, Mr. Catholic, Mr. Pope, Yamak Shemoy, I want to tell you something. For 2,000 years, you characterized me as being limited because you found some Yoshka over there and you made him into a God, and you believe in a limited God. And you walked around telling people God would love to help the Jews, but he can't because they're a damned people, because they sinned twice, and I burned down 2 of their houses, 2 of their temples, and I'm finished with them. I'd love them. They're the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'd love to help them, but I can't because they broke the rules. And the rule is 2 times you're out, and I have to live by the rules. I can't do anything else. The rules are the rules. I want to tell you something, Mr. Pope, Mr. Catholic, Mr. Christian. You got the wrong God. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, and I forgive the Jewish people for their averos. I can forgive who I want. There's no 2 strikes you're out. And I'm going to bring them back through kibbutz golius to Eretz Yisrael. And they're going to create an Eretz Yisrael and Medinas Yisrael. And they're going to continue building Torah there, and Chesed, and Avodah. And for all you who said wandering Jew and forever, eternally running around in exile, you got it wrong. I am not bound by any rules. So the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows the world that he returns Klal Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, and they don't have to wander, and this whole idea of reward and punishment, I have to punish the Jews. I don't have to punish them. I did what I did for 2,000 years or so. I did what I did. I had my own cheshbonos, and now I forgive them, and I'm bringing them back home with kibbutz golius, and I'm going to give them the real Mashiach. You understand now, Mr. Pope Yamak Shemoy? You got it? I'm not a human God. So Rav Friedlander says the very fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that, yes, I run the world on reward and punishment, but I can make an exception. I forgive the Jewish people, and I'm going to bring them back to Eretz Yisrael. That itself proves that I'm the Yichud Shalit. I'm the only sovereign, and I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, and I'm not muchruch. I am not forced to live by any rules. Back to Rav Friedlander. Gilui HaYichud hu atzir merkozi shel habriya. This Gilui HaYichud is the center of the purpose of all of creation. Kidiv Rabbeinu b'soif siman zeh, as the Ramchal explains at the end of the siman, shegilu Yehudai hu ma sherotze by harotzen elyoy. Revealing his Yichud is what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. He wants to reveal his Yichud to the whole world. The non-believer should understand that he's the Shalit, and the believers should understand and delve into this concept of Yichud. While pi kavona zois choka chukos nevroa. Koloma, kol hachukim tuluyim betachlis gilui hayichud, v'lochein bittul hachukim kagoyin chukei abchira. There are rules. Man is a creature of choice. We have freedom of choice, bechira. But we know, we've talked about this, when Mashiach comes, it's a Gemara in Sukkah and Daf Nun Beis, when Mashiach comes, here of Yomein, Rebbeinu Shalom is going to rid the world of the Yetzer Hara. We don't know what kind of world that looks like when people don't have to make choices. But there's, as the Ramchal splits the world in 2, there's the avoda time, and then there's the schar time. There's work time, and then you retire and you go to your pension. So a human being has those years that he works, and those years he accumulates pay, he deposits it for his pension, and the human being works during his lifetime, makes the right choices, deposits the right choices in an account, and when pension time comes, Gan Eden, Olam Haba, he collects his pension. And the world is made up of those two phases. Right now, we're in the phase where we're still making choices and we're still making deposits into our accounts, Be'ezrat Hashem. But that world's going to end. When the Mashiach comes, Be'er Yameinu, that world's going to end. Not going to be Bechira anymore. Who decides that? God made a choice. That's going to be the end of this world as we know it now. He's going to start a new world. God is controlling the world. So what we consider an absolute must, man must have freedom of choice, because God created man to be a creature of freedom of choice. Okay, it doesn't have to be like that forever. God can say that now that phase of the world is over and we're moving into another phase. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be that way forever. Chukei schar v'onesh, or the rules of reward and punishment. Toiv la'toivim, v'ra la'royim. God rewards those who do good and God punishes those who do evil. U'bittel hashilton v'akoyach shemos Hashem yisborach l'shus hara. And when God will rid the world of evil. All this is God taking control and saying, this is my world. I can do when I want, how I want, in the way I want. This was set into the plan. This is not a change of plan. The original plan, when God created the world, he created a world where there would be Bechira. Through the Bechira, there'd be a Gili HaYichud. And through the Gili HaYichud, we would go into the next phase of the world. All of this could have been accomplished by Adam Arishan, which he will describe in Yetz Hashem in the Sefer. And that Yom Shishi of creation, Adam Arishan, the Nachash, that confrontation. Adam Arishan could have done the right thing then and revealed Yichud Hashem, and then the world would have moved on to its next phase that we're looking forward to now. But because Adam Arishan did not succeed that day, we've now been for 5,780 years trying to accomplish what he didn't accomplish that day. We're trying to reveal God's Yichud to ourselves so we understand what it means, and to the whole Bria. When we get to a point that the Ribono Shalom determines that we have done what we can for the Gili HaYichud, the Ribono Shalom will send Mashiach to finish that job of Gili HaYichud. This is a focal point of the Ramchal. It means that God is not a mukhrach. He is not forced to do anything. Yachid, Echad, Yachid, Umiyuchad. There are no rules. The Ribono Shalom does not have to live by any given rule. Yes, the Ribono Shalom, and this is not really, it's not such a hard concept. Every king, lahavdil, a human king, the laws of the kingdom say X, Y, Z. If you do X, Y, Z, you're executed. Okay, and a person does X, Y, Z, the law says he's to be executed. And the king says, I pardon this person. The law says he has to be executed. I pardon him, and he goes free. The President of the United States has the power of pardon. Yes, the law, etched in stone, so to speak, says this person needs to go to jail, or this person needs to be executed. I sign a piece of paper as President of the United States, he goes free. Now, if we can understand that a sovereign, a human sovereign on planet Earth, can have the power of pardon, and he's not a mukhrach to the law. The Congress made the law, and the president can pardon. Congress made a law that a certain thing, XYZ, is criminal. And for that criminal act, a person is to be executed. That's the law passed by Congress. Congress represents all the citizens of the United States, at least theoretically. So the person's to be executed. It's etched in stone. It represents the will of the people. The president says, go home, you're free. We can understand or not. The fact is that the power exists in kings, it exists in heads of state. This is not so difficult to understand that God can have the same power. The Yidden did this, the Yidden did that, they lost Nebuch the first base of Mikdash, they lost Nebuch the second base of Mikdash, and now God would love to help them, but he can't. What do you mean he'd love to help, but he can't? You believe in the power of pardon. Why can't God have the power of pardon? Even if the rule says you have to be executed, a head of state has the power of pardon. Why can't God have the power of pardon? And even in the silly religion, man goes over to a little box, a window on the box open, and the man says, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." And it could be the worst kind of sin. And the person in there, because he's wearing a robe, he says, "Forgiven, my son, you're forgiven." And that's it, forgive. Look out, that's it, pardon. And then the person comes back and says, "You know what? I'm sorry, Father, I did it again." He says, "Okay, forgiven." And he comes back a third time and he says, "Father, forgiven." Is there some kind of rule in the Catholic Church that a person that did the same thing 3 times, the priest can't forgive him? There's such a rule? Well, that's the rule they apply to Jewish people. You did it 3 times, you're done for. There's a power of pardon that we understand, we know that human beings have. And Baruch Hashem, the Rebbeinu Shalom, Malach Malchim Baruch Kadosh Baruch Hu, he's not muchach in anything, not in the rules, not in the laws, not in the teva, not in anything. In the same way, the Rebbeinu Shalom can take the Yam Suf, the water which is supposed to flow, and that's the rules of nature, quote unquote, to the extent we can use that word. It's the rules of nature. The Rebbeinu Shalom can say, "No rules of nature by me. The water's going to stop so that my children can walk through it." In the same way, there's no rules of nature that he has to fall into line with. There's no rules in the area of reward and punishment. Yes, there's reward and punishment, and there's the power of pardon. And that's what the Ramchal is describing on Daf Yud Zayin. When the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to, he can be Moichel, and he was Moichel. And the Ramchal is writing this in the 1700s, and we're witnessing that with what we see every day. The Kibbutz Goliath here, and Mamish, the taking apart piece by piece of this crazy theology that the Jews will be wandering forever. They're eternally damned. There's nothing you can do about it. God can't help them. And we see that that whole theology is false. God can do what he wants when he wants, and he saved us, and he brought us to Eretz Yisrael, and we're building a Medina here. Everybody have a wonderful day. Those Yidden that need refuah should have refuahs. Those Yidden that need Yeshua should have Yeshuas. Those Yidden that need Nechamas should have Nechamas. Refuahs, Yeshuas, Nechamas only come from the Echad, Yachad, and Yuchad. They can only come from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we must follow only to the Rebbeinu Shalom for these things. Everybody, please make the right decisions for your safety about what you can and what you can't do, what you should and what you shouldn't do. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day. The Me'at Hashem will meet tomorrow. And hopefully we're going to finish the Perek this week. And after Shavuos, if we still have a Zoom Olam, we'll continue to finish Masechta Midas Bezras Hashem. Everybody have a wonderful day.